Okay, so in the last one I kind of explained the basics of this. Now let's come up with an equation for your, I'm just going to use VC instead of VCR for your circular velocity. Well, first I do need to discuss this. Time interval. Okay, you decide, you pick it, you determine. So you determine when a time interval is. Basically, it starts whenever you start your stopwatch, and it ends whenever you click it off. So we would say that it is delta t, so that's your, that'd be your final time minus your initial time. Now, but look, if you start your stopwatch at 0 right here, it's, you're just basically looking at your final reading. So what you will see customarily, like over here, you'll just see it as t. So it can either be delta t or t, but you determine it. Determined by you, it can be whatever. It's just when you start looking at it and when you stop looking at it. Okay, now let's look at time period. Okay, its cycle determines it. So it's the time to make one cycle. Okay, so it's the amount of time, I guess I should say amount of time. That's AMT. That says it's the amount of time to make one cycle. Plus, I can see if you're really listening to this or you're just like copying down what I write, which is not a good idea. So that's a time period. It is capital T, whereas your, I kind of got messed up, where your time interval is just going to be lowercase t or perhaps delta t, depending on the situation. So on these, and of course the SI unit would be seconds. They're both units of time. And by the way, I've been seeing a few like SAC, don't do that, it's S. S is the abbreviation for seconds. It is different from displacement, but hopefully we've covered all that. Okay, so let's look at your, I'll go back to blue. Let's look at your circular velocity. Well, what's a cycle if you're twirling stuff around at a constant speed? Hopefully you know it's one complete circle. So, and by the way, what's this going to be measured in? The circular velocity, it's going to be the oranges, meters per second. So which one of these should we use? How are we going to time this? If you had a stopwatch out, how would you time it? Well, hopefully you said time period, since we have a cycle, the time it takes to make one rotation or one complete circle. And let's see, that's measured in seconds, so would it go on the top or the bottom? The numerator or the bottom denominator? Well, seconds, this goes on the bottom, so time period. Now, how far does it go in one time period? It goes one complete circle, and this is what the notes were about from last night. How could you measure? That's the circumference, the outside edge, like if you walked around it. How could you measure that, or how could you figure that out? Well, you could find this. It's, hey, guess what? The length of the string, or whatever. This is the radius, and radius is measured in meters. Hey, that works out. So remember, if you have your two equations, you have your pi r squared, or your 2 pi r. Which one am I going to use for circumference, which should be end up in meters? This will be meters squared. It's not that one. That's area. Don't want that. This one would be just r, meters. So 2 pi radius, your circumference over your time period. That is your circular velocity.